Hey there, everybody. It's Dave here, and Darren is on the way. He's having technical difficulties at this moment. His computer wouldn't allow the camera or the mic to come on. He's working through that. Hopefully, a reboot solves that problem. He'll join us shortly. Welcome to the latest episode of Two Old Bloggers with Darren and Dave. As soon as Darren gets here. Today, we have a jam-packed show with three exciting themes as usual. First up, we'll be talking about the latest training camp tidbits from the Vikings and over at Egan at TCO training field. We'll be discussing standout players, potential signings, and there's breaking news right before the show, and what we can expect from the team in the upcoming season. Next, we're going to be shining that 2024 free agent spotlight on KJ Osborne, the Vikings' fourth-year wide receiver. We'll take a close look at his past performances, his upcoming free agency in 2024, and what the future could look like with this, with the Vikings or with somebody else. But specifically in 2023, what it looks like for him on this version of your Minnesota Vikings. And then in our final theme, we're going to be discussing the return of Vikings football. Yes, it's just a preseason game, but we get to see the purple in pads playing full speed for the first time since January of last season. We'll be previewing that upcoming preseason game against those Seattle Sea Chickens and highlight the key players that you'll probably be wanting to watch. We'll also examine the importance of the preseason games and what they can tell us about the team's strengths and weaknesses. And I can't wait to watch Flores in that defense. So sit back, relax, grab your favorite beverage, and join us for another exciting episode of Two Old Bloggers. Vikings First and SKOL presents This Week in Vikings Land with Darren and Dave, your two old bloggers. And here I am on the wrong screen. Yay. This was last week's. We'll move that. Not a big deal. Here we go. Our show today titled Return of Vikings Football, the Preseason Preview. And as you can see, that big black blob in the middle is supposed to be Darren. However, he's not here yet. Wonder where he is. Hopefully, he's rebooting his computer. Like I said, he's having an issue. We tested 2 hours ago. Great signal. He's got the full mic set up. Everything's working fantastic. And now he goes on, and it won't recognize the microphone or the camera. That's great. Now, the breaking news right before everything hit was, I'm going to bring this up, see if I can see it real quick, was that the Vikings signed former first-round wide receiver N'Keal Harry. He was drafted in the first round by the Patriots in 2019. He's only 25 years old. He's 6'4", 225 pounds, so he's a good size wide receiver. He's coming from the Bears, his previous stint. Nothing to get too excited about, however. he's one of those first rounders that never lived up to his billing. So, but that is the breaking news. The Vikings signed him. Darren's telling me it says it's ringing, but not letting me in. I'll tell him, try again. Anyways, how is everybody today? I want to say hello to everybody in the chat. We have Miss Sarah, Justin, My Worthless Opinion, of course, the wonderful and beautiful Miss Mary Fisk, and hopefully today, Mary, your day is better. We have Dan. Aaron's down here in Austin, sweating his off because it's warm. Like normally in Texas, Texas is known for its brisket. How do you cook brisket? Low and slow. Well, that's what's happening to all of us down here. We're being cooked low and slow. Another day, well over 100. Hey there, Raymond. Yogi, good to see you. Chad's here as well. There's Norsefius. So, Darren is again trying to work on getting everything here and up and running. But in the meantime, I can start. There's nothing wrong with that. We're going to go with the first theme. And now that I'm back on my regular screen, everything works. Yay. Scroll down. First one is the training camp tidbits. We've done the quick hitters. This is the version of the quick hitters, only for the training camp. Welcome to see you, young Slim. Hey, Jason, good to see you. First thing that Darren wanted to talk about, if he ever shows up, is Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison, nicknamed Speedy Gonzalez, besides that little incident, which hopefully he learned from, is standing out in camp. He is making plays. He is beating good, hopefully good, defenders. He's beaten the Caleb Evans. He's beaten Brian Murphy. That happens to be a great thing because with him on the team, hopefully being able to do that and then translating that to the opposition. Now people, yes, they're going to double team Justin Jefferson. Well, that should mean he's more wide open for Kirk Cousins to go, ha, 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 I see you there, Jordan. Here's the ball. Hey, Jonathan. Bob Sweet, go to the bullpen, Dave. Go to the bullpen. Hopefully Darren figures it out. Like I said, we just tested it 2 hours ago. It worked great. Aaron's saying our wideouts should look good because our secondary is bad. That is a possibility. I agree. Hopefully it's not the case. But we'll see. Hey, he's looking like he already belongs, and that's a great thing. And pada bing, pada boom. Guess who just popped in? There he is. Go ahead, Darren. And we tested it. Now he can't hear us. We can see him. We can see Darren right there. We can see you, Darren. We just can't hear you, Darren. Nothing. Oh, this is too funny. This is what modern technology brings you. And Darren, there goes Darren. Well, we can see Darren is alive. Everybody, Darren is alive. We'll keep working on that. So that is interesting. I got to tell them, it's in the settings. Oh, here I go again. Typing and not speaking. I know somebody that did that. We did that on Saturday. And I want to thank Justin for having me on Raps and Yogi's show while Rap was at the water park and Yogi was at practice. Mary, Darren. Hopefully he comes back. Michael asks, what are your thoughts about all the training camp activity with the players that are being cut and added left and right? Well, the majority of them that we're picking up are camp bodies. Nothing more. Don't expect them to make the roster. They're just there to take snaps. That's all it is. So you don't wear out your starters. I don't see anybody that's coming in as a starter. The only possibility we'll get into a little bit later, and that's Dalton Risner. But not a single one of them. They're all low level. Hey, this guy's been in the league 7 years, and he has 5 games he's played, like we talked last week. And it's just that reeks of, I'm here to take a few snaps, earn whatever the pay is, $70,000 or something like that, and then be cut after the third preseason game. That's all they're here for. There's nothing. And I would say that with the wide receiver we just picked up today, unless somebody is, way hurt. And hopefully that's not for Jalen Naylor, because I thought Naylor was doing great. And supposedly he was, just right around the corner. He was going to be back in practice. So that's my answer to that. There's nothing that happens this time of year, unless it involves a trade, that you should really get excited over when it comes to player personnel moves. The only possible exception is Dalton Risner, and like I said, we'll get into that here in a bit. But we all know the situation there. That hasn't happened yet either. So, Aaron asks, let's go off script a bit. What's up with TJ? Honest, Aaron, I think it's contractual. I don't think it's injury related. I could be wrong. I hope it's not injury related, but I think it could be contractual, and he's pushing the issue. Uh-oh, I just heard something. That means I hear Darren, and Darren hears me. Yes?
Correct.
Awesome. We've got a show, everybody.
Sorry. I don't know. I don't
We'll
know.
master this technology.
Computer, but anyway, I'm here now, half an hour late.
Not a big deal. I just started theme 1. Right? As you can see,
Awesome.
Jordan Addison is up there. Tell us what your thoughts are on Jordan Addison.
Again, sorry, everybody. Glad that you're sticking around, although you're used to Dave doing this solo the past couple of weeks, I guess. Addison, training camp tidbits, going to be kind of like I think you explained, bit of a quick hitters for training camp. Now that we've got into 2 weeks on this, and there's been some developments, and Jordan Addison's been one of them, I think. He didn't get to work at all during OTAs and the mini camp because of the injury, which whatever that injury was, and didn't really get disclosed. And then right after that, has a speeding issue where he was driving like 300 miles an hour and got pulled over. And we're a bit worried about him, like what kind of life choices is this kid making? But reading great things about Addison right now. Cousins giving him rave reviews about knowing what he's doing on the field, being very smart that way, which we knew at USC and at Pitt. He was very productive and a guy who could run all the routes, seemed to be a very smart football IQ type player. Has made numerous now toe-tapping touchdown catches in the corner, in the back of the end zone, corner of the end zone, made some diving catches. And he's roasting the corners that are covering him, creating great separation with quickness, and elite athleticism, leaving them in the dust. Maybe that says something, a little bit something about our corners too.
There was a comment about that. Is it how good our receivers are, or is it how bad our corners are?
Certainly there's that. So there's a concern there. But I think that, after a bit of a rough start for Addison in the off season for him, so far in training camp now, no games have been played. We'll have to see him with the pads on and all that sort of stuff. But what I'm hearing is very, very good. And it looks like, as I thought, that, I felt that Jordan Addison was going to be a very good player for us. Now, how good, that's, we'll see. Is he going to be Justin Jefferson good? Probably, maybe not. Who is? But I thought he's going to be a productive Viking during his in the time that he's here, and it's looking that way now. And it looks like he's going to be, a major factor for the Vikings offense. If what we're hearing and what we're seeing in training camp with the videos, I'm not at training camp to watch in person,
right,
but everything I'm reading has been really, really good. Our Tyler Fornes talked about this week how he's doing all those things I just mentioned and been really, really impressive. And if he is doing this in the regular season, that's very good news for the Vikings offense, I think. And so if KJ Osborne doesn't quite take that next step up as a number 2 guy, maybe Addison is your number 2 and KJ Osborne is still your number 3, like he has been the past 2 years.
And by the way, you're coming through your computer mic instead of the new mic. But anyways, we'll continue. Let's see. You said he got great reviews from this man.
Yeah, it was. Again, Kirk Cousins was talking about how he's where he expects him to be on the field. He's catching the ball well, and it looks like Kirk's quickly gaining trust in him on the field, which is big because Cousins has got the thing with Justin Jefferson, trusts him. He's got the thing with T.J. Hawkinson, threw a lot to him last year. But it's often takes time for those veteran quarterbacks who've been around a while to trust a rookie. And it looks like right now he is trusting Jordan Addison completely. And we're like not even 3 weeks into training camp, which I think is great news.
Which is awesome. Then we have, of course, KJ Osborne, which we'll get into later. Or Jordan Addison.
Yeah.
And then the next of these tidbits you wanted to talk about, and we'll get into because it's an interesting one. This man.
Yeah, this bit of old news, but of course, the Vikings brought Dalton Risner in for a visit earlier this week. They did not sign him. He is not a Viking, and usually when a guy leaves town and doesn't sign a contract, he doesn't come back and sign a contract with us. He's with somebody somewhere else. That's still not guaranteed, but that's often how it works in free agency. But interesting because in the past shows we've talked about, when we talked about the offensive line, I've mentioned, we got all 5 guys coming back. They're probably going to start. That's good for continuity for the offensive line because it's important that they know, each guy knows what the other guy's going to do, what their tendencies are, what their weaknesses are, so they can all move as a cohesive unit when they're doing all those things on their blocking, run blocking, pass blocking. Well, if you sign Risner or somebody else, that messes that up a little bit. But I think I can understand why the Vikings brought him in to kick the tires on him because right now, if you're concerned about the interior offensive line, particularly its pass blocking, whether it's Garrett Bradbury, Ezra Cleveland, and Ed Ingram, you have legitimate reasons to be concerned about that because particularly Ed Ingram and Ezra were not very good pass blockers last year. And Risner, although his run blocking was very poor by PFF grades last year, 53.4, I think it was, his pass blocking was, I think, 72.9, which is pretty good. And he's never had below, you can see it down there, never been below 69 PFF grades as pass blockers. So if you sign him, that's potentially, you've got somebody who's an upgrade on the pass blocking, and that can limit, if you need to use him or you do want to use him, that can limit the hits that Kirk Cousins is going to get up the middle, which is a good thing because he got hit a lot last year and pressured a lot last year. I think the other thing that's good about it, kicking the tires, is because when you look at the Vikings' depth on the offensive line at the guard positions, you got Jack Murphy, or Murphy, you got Chen, who's an undrafted rookie free agent, and then Chris Reed, who has been hurt the whole training camp, and the Vikings don't seem to like him very much. So if you were to sign a guy like Risner, I think that would give Kevin O'Connell a bit more confidence in his depth at the guard positions. So there's good reasons why they brought him in. We don't know why they weren't able to seal the deal or sign him, whether they didn't feel the fit was right or Risner's asking for more money than they're willing to pay. And maybe they still will re-sign him. But I still think I agree with looking to improve your unit no matter what point in the season or the preseason it is. If you can find a better guy than the guys that you have and you can afford to bring that guy in, bring him in.
These are the excuses I'm hearing that could possibly be true. One, he wasn't a personality fit. That's one of the first things they do when they bring people into that they're evaluating. Will they fit with the team, with what they're trying to do? That whole collaboration, kumbaya, we all love each other stuff that happens at Egan. Two, he may have been asked to play right guard, and he said, no, I'm a left guard. Or he may have asked to compete for a starting job, i.e., you're not guaranteed a starting spot. And that popped up there. And that's floated around the internet that he wanted a guaranteed starting job. And they said, no, you're going to compete. And there's a good reason to. Yes, his pass blocking grades and skills are notably better than the two we have or the three we have across the middle. And remember, he played tackle, right tackle, and center in college. I think it would be a great depth piece to move, swing anywhere. But they may have said, well, we're not going to guarantee you because running is also important to us. We want to be efficient at running, and we need people that can run block, and you, frankly, suck at it.
And the Denver line wasn't exactly sterling last year either, and he was part of that.
The Denver was all screwed up last year. Could have been asked to, like I said, back up as a depth piece across a swing guy, any position, and said no. It could be a health issue. Last year, we know he had an issue with his ankle that caused him to miss games. Maybe that's didn't fully 100% check out or something. Or he believes, and his agent believes, that, he was evaluated, or his valuation is around $11 million, and he's not going to play for a penny less. And the Vikings said, no, we've got better things to spend money on. All those possibilities could be true, any one of them. Will we ever find out?
I doubt it. Find out from O'Connell or Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, for sure.
But I think this is... He gave his pitch. The Vikings gave their pitch. They didn't agree. Good luck. And I think that's all that we can make of that. So,
and like a lot of players who aren't signed yet, Risner or somebody else, they're just waiting for somebody to go down with an injury in training camp,
possibly,
and then then they get the deal or the professional playing position that they're looking for that maybe other teams weren't giving them a week ago or 2 weeks ago or a month ago.
Quite possibly. Yes, that very well could happen. Hey, Dalvin
Cook's
still out there.
In a week if Ed Ingram goes down with a torn Achilles heel or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden they're back to Dalton saying, hey, buddy, remember when we said that, remember when we didn't want to give you that starting job? It's yours now.
That's possible. You never know. You want to move on from Dalton Risner, which gets us nowhere. It's just pure speculation. We're now on to, you wanted to talk about the Vikings cornerbacks.
Of course I do, Dave. Favorite topic. With still a position I'm concerned about. I think it's a position that all Viking fans should be concerned about. Just with the amount of youth that we have there and unproven players that we have there that we're banking on, and we're starting to learn now what the depth chart at corner is looking like after a couple of weeks. And right now, it's clear Byron Murphy Jr., which was going to happen anyway, and the Caleb Evans are your number 1 and 2 corners for the Vikings.
On the outside.
On the outside. But who's number 3? That is the $1 million question. Patriots cast off Jawan Williams was running with the ones at the number 3 spot the first week. We've learned since then that 3rd round pick Mekhi Blackmon has been taking over and playing kind of in the nickel number 3 spot, which is what I thought might happen when we drafted him. And after looking at the scouting reports on him and also looking at what else we had on the roster, which was questionable at corner at that time. So that is how it's rolling up now. Andrew Booth Jr. still running with the 2s when he's healthy, which is rarely.
Well, he's supposed to come back according to
he's supposed to come back every week, every month, I think. And the guy is
then he
never able
his
to
toe and he goes on IR.
Never able to stay on the field. So that's you've got that, and like really, it is going to be. Am I comfortable with Evans as a starter? No, I'm not. Not until I see more out of him. But I'm not comfortable with anybody other than Murphy there at this point. But that's what we've got right now. Mekhi Blackmon is your number 3. We'll have to really watch closely here. It's still preseason, and the Vikings and Brian Flores will be trying things, of course, to see what mixing and matching, see what combination works. But I think if Mekhi Blackmon can keep on the level of play he's been doing in training camp in preseason, and it starts on Thursday when the Vikings play, and I expect Mekhi Blackmon will be playing a fair bit there, that if he can hold his own, he's probably your number 3 nickel corner.
He's your nickel corner.
He's your corner for the 2023 Minnesota Vikings. And not Chandon Sullivan.
Right. And that's nickel corner when they go 3 corners on the field.
Yes.
It's also pretty much settled when they go 3 safeties on the field and you bring in the big nickel. That big nickel looks to be Josh Metellus. He looks like he's wrapped that sucker up.
Yes. And when those guys play is going to be all the other team's personnel, of course, and what they've got on the field and who they've got on the field. Josh Metellus isn't going to be chasing the Brandon Cooks of the world around, I don't think. That'll be Mekhi Blackmon or somebody else doing that. And Jawan Williams, I thought, if they were using him in the 1s, he couldn't have been your nickel corner, like a guy who's 6'4". Just doesn't seem to make sense to me. I think they would have shifted Byron Murphy inside on that one and had him outside. But I don't think that's, other than injury, that's the personnel you're going to have at corner. It's going to be Murphy and Evans on the outside, Mekhi Blackmon at nickel, although Blackmon played on the outside a lot at USC and Colorado too and did a pretty good job of it. So he can go out there, but the concern is always his size on the outside, although Byron Murphy isn't that tall either. He's listed at 5'11", which is what Mekhi Blackman's listed at, but he's a little bit heavier and a little bit stouter than Mekhi.
Well, he's older and he's put on more bulk. Northvia says Blackmon is a gritty, sounds like he's gritty. I think he is. And you got to remember, when playing nickel corner, you're playing in on the slot. You don't have the sideline to use as part of your repertoire, and you've got to be able to turn left and right a whole lot more and do a lot different reads while playing it. And it's a tough position to play. And if Blackmon earns it, that's good for the youngster. Very, very good for the youngster. Hopefully he stands out. Hopefully he makes a career for himself. Because we could use a great nickel cornerback. It's been a while.
We have not had one. Well, I can't really remember one, to be honest.
Captain, maybe. He had a couple good years.
Well, I don't know if he was great, but he was solid in that role.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
which I didn't think Sullivan last year was whatsoever.
Oh, not even close.
Your next little tidbit.
Yeah, another bit of old news, but I did feel I needed to address it. I think it was this time last week that we learned, and we're quite happy to learn that the Danielle Hunter contract situation, the hold in, not the hold out, because he was in camp, just wasn't participating, that he was a Viking, signed for 1 year. This was the last thing that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah had to get off the to-do list for the offseason. Took a long time, but he did get it done, and no harm done on for the Vikings or for Hunter, who's a veteran who it's not going to bother him too much if he's not getting reps in the first week of training camp, or he has to ramp up. But, a big sigh of relief, I think, for most Viking fans that this got settled. I wasn't looking forward to the Vikings trading him because I don't know what we would have got back from him. I wasn't really keen on day 2 picks, and who knows what
or
we
day
got.
3 picks. That's
or
what
day
I was
day
lamenting.
3 picks. Yeah. But I like it for a few reasons. One is that we've seen with Kwesi Adofo-Mensah when he's been extending guys that are current Vikings or signing free agents, it's like 1 or 2 year deals, basically, and he's not going long term 4 or 5 year with free agents or impending free agents. So getting Danielle Hunter on a 1 year. Yeah, especially as they get older, they're getting close to 30. He's not interested in tying up money long term on those guys, which seems very smart to me. Also like it because, and I think Aaron's mentioned it down there, is that now if you don't have Hunter, I've said this before, then Marcus Davenport becomes your number 1 edge rush guy. So teams are going to focus on him. And then they're going to let Patrick Jones, DJ Wanham, Luigi Villain, whoever, the other guys, try to beat them. I don't like that scenario. So you got Danielle Hunter. You know what you're going to get from him. It's going to be 10 sacks or more if he's healthy, and a crap load of pressures on the quarterback every year. Like guaranteed, I think, if he's healthy. That's something that Brian Flores can depend on. He can work with. I know that Flores, if you look at his 2021 Dolphins defense, they got 48 sacks, which was very good, but with a lot of no-name guys. Their top sack guy was Emmanuel Ogbah with 9. They got a lot of sack production from all over the roster, which is good if you don't have Hunter. But I'd be pretty worried that we'd be able to replicate that with the group that we have. I think that our pass rush would really suffer without Danielle Hunter. That's not a news flash to anybody, but and Captain Obvious here. But really, I didn't want to see Flores trying to have to really work his magic without Danielle Hunter and trying to get squeeze a whole bunch out of DJ Wanhams of the world and the Patrick Jones of the world, who are unproven guys or guys that have proven that they're not elite. Very good players. So I like that. Like the fact that it takes a lot of, again, pressure off of Marcus Davenport to be the number 1 guy. Now you've got Davenport and Hunter, and I think that they could be a pretty good 1-2 pass rushing duo, like Hunter and Zadarius Smith were last year at times. Yes. And then the other thing is just the Hunter. It's amazing that the guy doesn't turn 29 until this October, and he won't be 30 until next October. But he's getting close to 30. Again, the 1 year deal doesn't tie up a lot of money when he next year and the year after that,
he does have a significant dead cap if they let him walk. There's incentive to sign him to an extension next year. I think they're still playing with the money numbers on when we look forward. They're going to look at how did this season go.
Yes.
And if he shows out, like I said, I think on previous week, I'm calling for him to get 20 sacks. If he shows out, they're going to re-sign him, and they'll sign him for a few years and get him to 33, 34, and he's still in the window of being a serviceable defensive end, high-end defensive end at that age. But if he doesn't show up this year, well, then they're going to let him walk, and they're going to suck up I'm trying to remember how much it was. It was originally, what was it? 11, almost 12 million. Now it's up to like 18 million or something like that in dead cap for next year. But if they extend him, that keeps pushing that money down the road. So hopefully he has a great year. I think he will. Now, I want to answer Freddie's question real quick. Freddie asked, are we still a 3-4 defense? The answer to that is yes, on paper.
Yeah.
It's, if you're looking at a website and they ask what defense do they play and they say 3-4 or 4-3, ours says 3-4. Will we be in a true 3-4? Rarely, if ever. I suspect it'll be under 10% of the time. It's going to be, like Flores says, it depends on who they're playing. And even when they are in a 3-4, it's a modified 3-4. It's not the true. They're going to have a fourth guy down there. And Flores has already said when it comes to Danielle Hunter, but about whether his hand's in the dirt or he's standing up, he goes, I'm leaving that up to Danielle. It'll be up to him, whatever he feels more comfortable with. He's not dictating, you must stand in a 2-point stance on this play, right? You must stand right here and do this and do that. No, he's not. He's like, dude, just go get the quarterback. And literally, that's his instructions. Just go get the quarterback. And I suspect that we'll see Danielle move around on the line, very much like Za'Darius did a little bit last year. And Danielle's done before under Zimmer. And that you'll bring in different types of rushing packages. And you can't call it a technical 3-4. But on paper, when you have to categorize it, one or the other, we're a 3-4. But like I said, expect to see a base 3-4 less than 10% of the time. And that will probably only be on known rushing downs, period.
And we've also been hearing that in training camp, Brian Flores has had some of the times, as far as formations, he's been using only 2 defensive linemen, not 3.
Like I said, it's going to be, or Northfield said, it's going to be a hybrid.
And but happy that the Danielle Hunter thing got done. The other thing, as far as training camp tidbits, is, it wasn't in my notes, Dave, but I think it's important to note that I think for 2 or 3 practices in a row, the offense has really struggled against Brian Flores' defense. He's throwing all kinds of pressures on them. They're having trouble getting it blocked. And hey, in one part of me is like, damn, can't the like, what is the offense going to do when an opposing team opposing teams are going to be hearing about this?
What's wrong with the offense?
Yeah, what's wrong with the offense? But the other part of me is like, damn, this is what we were looking for. A defense that confuses an offense and does different things, and you don't know where guys are going to come from and just creates chaos. And that is sounding really good to me, what I'm hearing out of training camp as far as our defense, its ability to pressure the quarterback, really mess with the offensive line and the quarterback's minds about where how to set the pressure, how to protect this, how are we going to, and not succeeding at all in doing that. So really interested to see what Flores is going to show in preseason, if anything at all. Like last year when Ed Donatel was, remember the preseason, everybody's like, oh, well, they're going vanilla. He's not showing them all his tricks. It turns out, folks, that was our defense.
Yes,
they were just vanilla all the time.
And the offense looked great against it. I think I said it yesterday. I think the offense, this is good for them to see, because they're going to start to now work out, what happens if I see this? What do I need to do? What calls do I need to adjust? If it's a blocking call, whether it's Bradbury or Cousins calling the blocking, or either one changing it to say, hey, I've seen this before. We've called protection to the left side. I'm switching it to the right because they're feinting, or there's indication of what. They can make those choices because they now see them and can practice to them. It's not the same guys lining up in the same spot, doing the same thing over and over and over again, like it's scripted. So I think that's good for us. But I think the Flores defense, and I know I said this yesterday, the league loves the Fangio defense. And the Fangio defense, when it's done great, works fantastic. playing the too high shell. It helps defeat the passing game and keep everything in front of you, right? And the league has moved to that passing game. And one of the ways to beat that is to throw, a massive bell cow running back at you time after time. But we're away from that running back paradigm. So you got to figure out other ways to beat it. Well, I think Flores' defense, when all these teams are preparing for Fangio style, when they see the Flores defense, I think it's going to screw with their minds, absolutely mess them up. And I think that's an advantage that the Vikings will have. And I think I said it last night. I think I know I did, when I was on with Justin and we were going through the schedule. We play the top 4 teams from the NFL from last year. Super Bowl winner, Super Bowl loser, and the champion and the conference champion runner-ups. I think we could steal 2 of those games. And if we do, we can get 12 wins. Easy. And it's all going to key on that defense and how I think it's more a psychological thing because we're young and they're not polished. You don't have a whole bunch of polished veteran type players that know what they're doing other than Harrison Smith back there. But if they can mess with people's heads, that can be an effective tool. That's another weapon in your quiver, as Robin Hood once said. So I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to see it Thursday, but we'll get into that later. See, theme 3. Now on to theme 2. Our free agent spotlight, KJ Osborne.
Almost an hour into the show, just in theme 2. This is the latest in looking at, I know we're into 2023, but always time to look to 2024 and look at impending free agents and guys that whether the Vikings can bring him back and should they bring them back. And KJ Osborne is another interesting case.
Gary,
in
you only missed one theme.
And that is, KJ Osborne really, after his rookie year in 2020, I thought going in 2021, this guy was going to be a roster cut. Like I didn't see a role for him because he didn't do very well as a punt returner. He got 0 offensive snaps as a rookie. I was like, this guy is definitely going to be a roster cut. We started hearing that he's looking good in OTAs. He's looking good in minicamp. He's looking good in training camps. Could be a factor. I was like, oh, wait and see. Then the first game against Cincinnati, I think he caught like 7 or 8 catches for 90 yards. And he ended up catching 50 balls on 80 targets, 655 yards for 7 TDs, and he was a solid number 3 guy for the Vikings. So he proved me wrong, was not a roster cut, was an asset to the Vikings in 2021. And in 2022, his usage went up a little bit. He got 60 catches. I think he had thrown 90 targets, 650 yards, and 5 TDs. So his stats were pretty much.
That was in the last 6 games.
Yes. Yeah, when he had his 2 first 100-yard games as well, the Indianapolis game and then against the Bears as well in the last game of the season. So he proved to be, again, a solid number 3 guy, somebody who could complement Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. But he was also really the number 4 receiving option much of his 2 years behind JJ, then TJ last year. Behind Adam Thielen in 2021, well, some parts of 2022, but then he kind of surpassed Thielen as the number 3 guy, I think, later on in the year. Now, the thing about KJ is that Pro Football Focus, if you look at his grades the last 2 years, 64.9 in 2021, 65.2 in 2022. So those are average grades. Right. They're not fantastic. And so, if you look at KJ Osborne, the way he's performed so far in the 2 years that he's played, he's a guy that really, if you were to keep on playing this way, he'd be a very affordable guy to re-sign. He's not going to break the bank to sign him to an extension. But the question is, do you want to sink even affordable money into KJ Osborne? Because he's not like the super elite and got the super elite athleticism. And I say this recognizing that this guy is playing in the NFL at a high level. I feel bad saying the guy doesn't have supreme athleticism. Where we saw him, he'd be like, man, this guy is unbelievable.
Right.
But it's perspective. But anyway, I think for KJ Osborne, obviously an important year for him as a in a contract year. He's in a pretty good position if he is going to stay as the number 2 guy. And Adam Thielen's gone. Jordan Addison, we're not sure what role he's going to have in the offense. We hope it's going to be a good one, but he's going to get, as a number 2, he's going to get more targets, which could lead to more receptions, more yardage, more touchdowns, more big plays, which could lead to a contract extension. And maybe a fat one for him, one that maybe the Vikings and Kwesi adofo-mensah don't want to pay. But I think for KJ Osborne staying here next year is dependent on actually more on things that beyond him. One is, again, Jordan Addison. If Addison shows from the get-go that he can be an excellent number 2 complement to Justin Jefferson, and again, we know that he's a different kind of athlete than KJ Osborne, quicker, shiftier, that sort of thing. Then if Addison shows that he is a legit number 2 guy, maybe even a 1B to Justin Jefferson's 1A, well then, hey, the Vikings, I think, could be comfortable saying, look, we got Jefferson, we got Addison.
I love you. Thanks for playing.
Yeah. We don't want to sink extra dollars into KJ Osborne, no matter what kind of year he has. We're happy with the depth. And the other thing is, I think Jalen Naylor plays into this too. Now, unfortunately, he's been hurt the past week in training camp, and he hasn't been able to build on a really strong offseason so far. But again, it doesn't seem like he has a serious injury right now. So when he comes back, whenever that is, if he can show, again, the coaching staff and us that he is a guy who could be a viable number 3 guy in this offense, again, I think that if he can show that, the Vikings can feel confident in that. Again, then why are you going to sink money into KJ Osborne when you've got a guy like Jalen Naylor who can be just as good as Osborne or maybe even a little better? You've got Addison, who's your number 2. And again, you got Justin Jefferson. So I think those are the kind of the things that beyond what KJ Osborne does this year or doesn't do, I think Addison and Naylor are going to really determine what the Vikings do with KJ Osborne at the end of this year and whether they sign him or not. And I've got a feeling that it's going to be they don't re-sign him because Addison proves that he's legit. He's your number 2 guy going forward. And Jalen Naylor shows that he can be your number 3 guy going forward. Mm-hmm. And there's even guys now that we're hearing about in training camp, whether that maybe they can improve the depth too. Some guys like Brandon Powell, who I didn't really think too much of. He's making a lot of plays in training camp. Thayer Thomas has showed up a few times. So there's some other guys in the depth chart that could make a guy just make the Vikings, Kevin O'Connell, Wes Phillips feel really good about the wide receiver unit as a whole and the depth they have, and that they don't feel they need to re-sign KJ Osborne because they've got players who can do just as well as him or even better in the role that he's in now.
It's going to be interesting. I think KJ Osborne right now is turned into sort of the Jarius Wright type of person. He's guaranteed to catch the ball, get you that first down. When it's 3rd and 8, you need the distance, and the coach calls it, and Kirk doesn't check down to C.J. Ham, behind the line of scrimmage or something like that. I think KJ is that guy. Whether he can step up, I fully expect him to step up and do more. He could be better than Jarius Wright, but at minimum, I see him in that. I want to go back to.
He's already stats are better than Jarius Wright ever was. Different offense, though.
Aaron said, signed Harry. Oh, my God, this is a crazy situation. What are you referring to, Aaron? I'm not seeing anything.
N'Keal Harry?
Oh.
Wide receiver.
Yeah.
That's what he's talking about.
Okay. That's N'Keal Harry was, in my opinion, probably somebody who's never lived up to his billing. Another first rounder that didn't quite make it.
He has not come close to living up to his billing. Also, a guy who's not going to be a Viking in 4 weeks. But they're bringing him in because they've got a few injuries, and they need somebody to catch a few balls, I think. And
he may be it.
he hasn't been able to make it with the teams he's already been on, and I don't expect that things are going to be any different here in Minnesota.
Well, we'll find out. Interesting. Now on to theme 3. This isn't our normal pregame show. We'll start those on September 9th. But this is sort of a pregame preview because your Minnesota Vikings play the Seattle Seahawks on Thursday night, and we have real full speed, on time football.
After, what has it been, 8 months, Dave? We've finally got some
January.
Sort of real football that's coming our way on Thursday night when the Vikings go to Seattle to play the Seahawks. Love it when we go to Seattle. No, no, I don't. But anyway, but it's still the beginning of sort of real football, and it'll give us all fans a little bit of chance to see with our own eyes these players that we've been hearing about and reading about, from guys like Tyler Fornes or Will Ragatz or Ben Gessling or Tom Pellisario or whoever you follow.
Judge Zolgad.
Judge Zolgad, yes. And I, it's last year when Kevin O'Connell was first preseason, I was really excited to see how the team in preseason with him as our first year head coach and to see how everybody would perform. And it ended up being, it was a pretty boring and even a bit worrying preseason. We went 0-3, and really there was almost nobody who stood out. And the main guy that's the star of Vikings preseason was T.Y. McGill, a journeyman defensive tackle. And then he ended up tweaking an ankle or hurt his ankle, and then we cut him.
Right.
And didn't even make the team. And as you say, the picture there shows caught on with San Francisco throughout the year and ended up playing on that team and actually was in the rotation.
Yes.
But apparently we didn't need him because we were so good on defense. But the 49ers did need him, and they had the best defense in the NFL last year.
That's funny.
Anyway, that's a little rant by me. But really, and when T.Y. McGill is the guy that shows out, is the most noticeable player, that's a bit worrying for me. But in the end, we went 0-3. It didn't matter because Connell they didn't play any starters, like almost none. Ed Ingram was with them.
Ed Ingram, I think, was about it.
Yeah. And that's kind of, if Kevin O'Connell he comes from the Sean McVay coaching tree. I guess he comes from the Shanahan coaching tree too a bit. But if he follows those McVay tendencies that McVay has shown in his time, then this preseason's not going to be a whole lot different than last preseason, in that a lot of our starters, our veteran starters, are not going to start. They're not going to play at all or very little. Like guys like Kirk Cousins, Harrison Smith, Jordan Hicks, even guys that are younger, like those vets, they don't need the preseason to be ready. We've seen them not play last year, and they were just fine going into the regular season. They've had plenty of reps in minicamp, OTAs, and in preseason, and there's also going to be 2 joint practices with teams.
Joint. That's the key where you see the starters get their full speed reps.
Yeah,
without mostly tackling to the ground. It's a more controlled type situation, but they're getting their full speed reps against live, opposing defenses. That's where they're going to get their work, is in those 2 days of each of those joint practices. So don't be alarmed if, Kirk Cousins is sitting in Seattle on Thursday night in a Hawaiian shirt.
He will be.
Nothing to worry about.
Or his dad's shirt. But those guys are getting plenty of reps now and throughout training camp, and they don't need a quarter or 3 quarters in a preseason game to be ready. And then your younger guys, the cornerstones, the younger cornerstone guys like T.J. Hawkinson, Justin Jefferson, Christian Darrisaw, those guys, they're not going to play either, I don't think, because again, you don't want to put them in harm's way, and they've been in the league 2, 3, 4 years now, so they don't need the game time reps in preseason either. But I think it'll be a little bit different, Dave, this year and that last year as far as the starters go, because last year there was pretty much every Viking starter position was already set. There wasn't any comment other than right guard. And so, but now we've got some presumptive starters who I think you are going to see in the preseason games and playing a lot more than you saw last year. Brian Asamoah would be one of them as a linebacker. He's expected to be starting opposite of Jordan Hicks. I think that's pretty much a guarantee, but he barely played last year as a rookie.
I expect the whole defense to at least get the starting defense to at least get one series, with possibly the exception of Harrison Smith, maybe Cam Bynum, because they're all
You mean the defensive backfield?
Well, no, it's just the majority. All right, McConnell likes to not play as starters. Okay, I got that. Now, whether Thursday, because they haven't had a full speed, we haven't had a training camp practice yet. So, I shouldn't say training camp, the joint practices yet. We're talking for Thursday night. Do you expect any of the starters on the defense to play in the game?
I expect Asamoah to play because, again, the Vikings have to see, I think, in a game against another team for extended snaps, how he's going to react. How does he fit? Is he getting the defense? And also last year, because he played so little, he's not used to playing in a game 30, 40, 50 snaps at full speed. And so he's got to get, I think, the conditioning part of it. I expect that Caleb Evans is another guy is going to play a lot because, again, he played much more than Asamoah last year, but it got the concussion things they ended his season, and he still didn't really play a lot. And I think there's a lot of question marks from me and the coaching staff about how good he can be, how effective he can be as one of your starting corners. So I think, again, you want to see in those preseason games, how is Evans going to hold up? And if he doesn't hold up, then you start panicking and bringing in guys like Ronald Darby or whoever some Rashad Breeland type guys, veterans who are out there to bolster the cornerback ranks because of Caleb Evans may not be up to the task. Another guy I think would be, again, Ed Ingram, even though he started all last year, didn't play particularly well. The more reps he can get, the more work he can get against the big round bellies up front is good for him, I think, and he's going to play a lot, I think. But I think Harrison Phillips, those guys, those veterans that they don't need to play, I don't think that they're going to play. But there's certain presumptive starters on this, particularly on the defense side, which I think you are going to see play a lot more than what we saw last year, which is good. I think the other thing is that to watch for in these games is because wins and losses don't mean anything really, Dave. To me, as we saw last year, the Vikings haven't won a preseason game in 2 off seasons now. They went 0-3 or 0-4 the year before, but it does matter to me when players show out. Are they making impact plays? Are they making positive plays and not just screwing up and letting plays happen to them all the time? And I think it's going to be important preseason to watch the progression of Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's 2 draft classes. Guys like Andrew Booth Jr., Lewis Cine, are they showing that they're finally getting it at the NFL level, that they are ready to be a contributor at the NFL level? Because so far they haven't. Injuries have been a big part of that, but those are guys to watch for. And Tyler Fornes talked in this week in training camp how Lewis Cine in particular and Asamoah even have been shown they've been very inconsistent in their reps. They make a great play, and then they make a bad play that leads to a great play for the offense. So it's an important time for them. It's an important time for, I think, the 2 draft classes, again, like Kwesi Adofo-Mensah is, for those young guys to show Mekhi Blackman. Can he hold up in a game? Is he really the number 3 nickel corner, or do we have to look at other options? And Jaron Hall, we know that he's going to be the number 3 guy, more than likely. But how far away is he from being a solid contributor, a number 2? And how far is he away, or does he show any ability to potentially be a number 1 somewhere down the line? So really going to be interested to see Jaron Hall and what he does.
And he did
in
get
preseason
more snaps with the 2s yesterday.
And he's going to play a ton in those 3 games, because Kirk Cousins is not going to play at all. and it's going to be Nick Mullins and Jaron Hall. And I think we said several months ago that when Hall got drafted, that as far as snap counts go, we'd be looking for Hall to get 75% and Mullins to get 25%, because
Correct.
Mullins is a vet too, and he doesn't really need, I think, preseason to be ready. A couple other guys, Ivan Pace, the undrafted rookie free agent, and Dwayne McBride, the rookie running back. Pace didn't get drafted, of course, because of his size. McBride didn't get drafted, and McBride gets drafted in the 7th round. But they were ultra productive at college, and so really excited to see what they can do. Pace has really been getting good reviews in training camp. Mm-hmm. He's at least looks like he's gonna. Right now, everybody's saying he's gonna make the 53. Probably only play special teams to start out, but things are looking real promising. So he's a guy that we're going to be watching him closely all preseason to see if what he did at Cincinnati last year translate at the NFL level. And the same thing with Dwayne McBride, who was just super productive at UAB. Can he show that what he did at college again translate at the NFL level? And then we won't worry so much about the Vikings running back depth, and if he shows.
Well,
so
as of right now, obviously Madison's coming off a little boo-boo, but he was back at practice.
Yeah.
Kene Nwangu's missing. Don't know where he's gone off to, supposedly a minor injury. Ty Chandler is supposedly doing extremely well. And between Ty Chandler and McBride, Ty Chandler gets it. Ty Chandler's by far above and beyond McBride so far. And then McBride is dealing with something that he dealt with in college, which is the dropsies. And we don't want running backs with the dropsies. But hopefully he can develop. I mean, he's a rookie running back taken in the 7th round. So let's see him come up. Now, you have Pace, who's pictured here, wearing the great Jimmy Clown-Saucer's number. Pace has been knocking it out of the park and turning heads. Yeah. He's been literally playing that good and been that stand-out-ish in camp. Now, has he made mistakes? Yes, he has made mistakes. But he is literally turning heads that, oh, my God, who was that? Type of deal. And he and Asamoah, if they can figure it out and get it 100%, because reports on Asamoah is that, 2 or 3 times he knows the exact gap to go to. And as Luke Brown, my favorite description of him, he teleports into that gap and blows shit up. Tackle for loss. And then that may be 2 plays in a row. And then in the 3rd play, he spots the gap, but the gap's the wrong gap. He hits that, and the guy goes for 10 yards. If he figures that out and Pace keeps improving like he's showing, turning heads, we now have 2 guys that we can look to for in the future when Hicks becomes a free agent and we let him walk. But we've got to see. And the preseason game on Thursday is the perfect spot for it.
It is. And Fred Bohr just mentioned that Pace could be like London Fletcher. And wouldn't that be awesome if that's what he turns out to be? Because London Fletcher was a hell of a football player. And I think, speaking of football players, but, the preseason, again, want to see players show up and stand out and make impact plays. And I want to see those 2 draft classes of Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. I want guys from there to start showing up and making plays and making impact. And our younger players who maybe not be the stud thought about guys, but I don't want the standout guys to be Jonathan Bullard or T.Y. McGill. I want them to be these young guys, because that is your future, Minnesota Viking fans, is those 2 draft classes. And if they suck, it's going to be pretty sad times in 2024, 2025 for the Minnesota Vikings. I think if Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's first 2 draft classes do not start producing, and of course the 2023 draft class, we can't say what they're like because they're rookies. They haven't got a chance to play. But the 2022 draft class, the returns have been pretty meager so far.
Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping, Ed Ingram steps up, takes that next step, gets better, masters his craft. But even for the second year on the offensive line, that would be significant if he did that. Hopefully there's, he scored in the 40s, 50. Hopefully he's in the 60s. That would be great. That pass blocking.
Mm-hmm.
we got to see him because that first year, especially the first year, isn't looking so good. So, but I look forward to seeing Scene. I look forward to seeing Booth. Booth is supposedly just about ready to come back on the field. And I've heard that so many times. It hurts to see Booth, right? Let's see him. He's right now supposedly running with the twos when he's out there. Well, let's see him. I want to see him. He had the prototypical size and speed and everything else that was supposed to be great. And he's flushing out. Let's see
and
if he can step it up.
He was an early last training camp. The first couple of weeks, he was like gaining a lot of notoriety, and I think positive notoriety for like being very physical, getting into fights, and pass breakups and that sort of thing. And then he got hurt, and he never caught up and never really got healthy either. And now there was one highlight from I think the first practice where fans were allowed in where JJ, I guess no shame in JJ, just turned him like totally into a pretzel and caught like a 55-yard pass from Kirk Cousins. It wasn't even a contest. But you see those things and you're like, Andrew Booth Jr., time for you to kind of like step up your play. Mm-hmm. Not only, first get on the field, and two, when you get on the field, do something. Like do something positive, because we've not seen that from him. And he was the first or second pick in the second round. Like, a guy who was looked at as going to be potentially a first-round pick as a corner, and he's just done nothing so far and hasn't been able to stay healthy. And it's time for him to start showing some things.
I agree wholeheartedly. I agree.
Good things.
Before we go, there's a few announcements. One, we have the game on Thursday. There will not be a post-game show. I'm not prepared, ready, set up to do post-game at the 2-minute warning for this game. We will probably have one for week 2 of the preseason, but not week 1. There's no guarantee on week 2. We may wait till the regular season, but there's no post-game show on Thursday night's game. So don't worry about that. Vikings First and SKOL over on the writing side. We have approved about 6 articles. I think it is. It may not be that many. It seems that many. Tyler and I have been editing the folks as they get the drafts in. Go check that out over yesterday, Friday, Saturday, and today. Some will be released tomorrow. So Fans First Sports Network or Fans First Sports Network at ffsn.app. Click NFL, click Vikings, and you'll find them all there. Good writers, good young writers. As for Vikings First and SKOL, we have Tyler and the Real Forno Show tomorrow night. I saw that he asked for listener questions today. Hopefully that's the topic for tomorrow, but I don't know. I haven't talked to Tyler since this morning. We'll find out. We'll have the Vikings Daily Opener with any, great news. And we'll go on from there. So we wish you to come and join us as we celebrate our love for the purple. And it is so great to have this man back, finally. Speaking of which, how are the fires? People want to know. Give us an update.
There's 180 burning where not right around me, but in the Northwest Territories in total. So pretty active. A lot of them are in the middle of nowhere and don't impact everybody, but there are a few that are close to a few communities, including Yellowknife. Right now, there's one about 38 kilometers northwest of here, and it's 116,000 hectares it's burnt so far. It's a pretty sizable one.
That's a lot.
Been going now for about 3 weeks. Keeps getting a little bit closer to the community. Not a threat to the community, but it's caused the highway to be the main highway to get in and out of Yellowknife. There's only one, and it's had caused that to close 3 or 4 times in the past 3 weeks. Not for long stretches, but still. Firefighters are working their asses off to get it under control. It is not under control. Not a threat to the city yet, but it's a concern, and just gotta. We're not getting much help from the weather. No rain in the forecast at all, and somewhat windy, which doesn't help depending on which way the wind's blowing. So, just gonna have to firefighters are doing a great job. They're doing everything they can. They're getting water bomb, air tankers, all that stuff. But life's not under threat. But hey, the fire can move. I'm going to use Canadian lingo here. That fire moved 10 kilometers in 4 hours one day last week. So depending on the winds, it can move very quickly and spread to quite quickly, and then it is a threat. So we're a bit at the mercy of Mother Nature in a way. It'd be nice to get a rain for 2 solid days, but not looking like it. But I'm not worried. But it's there. We got to deal with it. We will deal with it.
Freddie, he's up in the Northwest Territories in Yellowknife, to be exact. That is it for today. It is so great to have you back. What do we say, brother?
We say SKOL Vikings, baby, and beat the Seahawks Thursday night.
SKOL Vikings. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and rate us on your favorite podcast aggregator. Darren and Dave, thank you for watching this episode of Two Old Bloggers. We look forward to seeing you on every show on the new Vikings First and SKOL. You can find our podcast as part of the Fans First Sports Network. Sports takes for the fan, from the fan. SKOL, everybody!